Hi, I'm Richard Ellis, and I've been a professional caricaturist for 17 years. This short video describes some of the processes of working to commission. Here, the client contacted me to ask if I would be interested in doing a drawing for her. We had a few conversations by email and made a rough agreement about the format and price of the drawing. She had quite a few ideas which she wanted to incorporate, which I had to whittle down a little, so the final drawing would have clarity and impact rather than being obscured by detail. There were to be two people in the drawing. He was interested in horse racing and academia, and had spent his working life in the motor trade. She was an expert flower arranger and had worked in retail, notably Beatty's and Little Chef. Both enjoyed going on cruises. The client sent me some photos. The picture of the man was dark and of low resolution. It needed some work in Photoshop before I could use it. The photo of the woman was much clearer. Also, she had a distinctive face, making the caricaturist's job much easier. Eventually I got the go-ahead. I usually include a rough sketch in the price. This is useful because it lets me know, before committing to the final work, that the client is happy with the way things are proceeding. The rough's drawn on plain paper, starting with a propelling pencil, and then the lines are firmed up either with a fine liner or brush pen, allowing fluid drawing. Here is the rough, with the couple in the foreground and the other information at the sides and in the background. I sent this to the client, who was generally satisfied, but she wanted to lose the reference to the motor trade and emphasise the horse racing, so that was very useful in refining the composition. The next stage was to pencil in the final drawing onto the watercolour paper. The colours are applied with simple watercolour paints. I tend to use a set of half pans, as it's a quick way of finding and mixing colours, especially when using wet layers. As you can see, this is a well-used set. I generally find that 2 or 3 brushes of different sizes are enough. Here you can see the watercolour layers applied. I've used a watercolour paper which is thick enough not to distort when wet, and which has some texture to make the surfaces interesting. The sky and some of the ground were applied with a wet-on-wet technique, which gives smooth and slightly random textures, and which lets those areas appear to recede. Whereas the foreground details are wet-on-dry, which allows progressive layering and sharper definition, rather like selective focus in photography. You can see that I've included several colour hotspots, which are intended to liven up the composition and draw the viewer's eye around it. Afterwards, I applied most of the outline with a brush pen, which gives expressive and variable strokes. Some of the more delicate details and background images are outlined with a fine liner, so they don't compete with foreground. This is called a hierarchy of lines. Coloured pencils are used to create texture and definition on top of the watercolour layers, and to emphasise facial details such as eye colour. So, here's the final drawing. Even after careful preparation, it's hard to tell if the drawing is going to go down well with the client, so it's always a pleasure to get positive feedback like this. I'm Richard Ellis. Thanks for watching.